ChatGPT Plus is free for college students through May. Here's the thing. You've got a lot to do between now and then. Studying for finals, writing papers, trying to keep your life on track. And ChatGPT can help with all of it. It can quiz you for your econ exam, make a study guide from your French notes, plan out your meals and study breaks. It can get really specific on how you like to learn. It can even help you come up with ways to stop procrastinating. So from now until summer break, take advantage of all the ways ChatGPT can make your life easier. Restrictions apply.
Somebody who is not leaving the country, in fact, if it were possible, he's moving more into the country, is Brian Kilmeade. He is a nationally syndicated radio talk show host, the co-anchor of Fox and Friends, also happens to be the only affable right-leaning television personality that is not interviewing for a cabinet post in the Trump administration, and he's a New York Times best-selling author to boot. Brian Kilmeade, it's great to talk to you again.
I would interview if I had skills, but I offer nothing to our nation. So that's clearly what Donald Trump thinks.
That's the rejoinder to the John F. Kennedy speech of 1961 is
yes,
I
exactly.
offer nothing to our
follow-up.
country. I like it. I like it. All right.
I wish I could.
Yeah, you and me both. All right, Brian, there's a lot to get to with you that's in the news. Let me begin with the situation involving Matt Gaetz. I know you're not a fan. The president says he is not reconsidering the nomination for attorney general. He's actually calling senators and try to do some persuading and some arm twisting. J.D. Vance is trying to do some, relationship management with his former colleagues. Now, apparently, the big fight is whether or not the House Ethics Committee report should be released. Evidently, the committee was deadlocked on its release, so as of now, it's not going to be officially released. I know how you feel about Gaetz. Do you think the ethics report should be released or should be kept under wraps?
What I think is going to happen, they're going to wheel out the women who have made the accusations, and they're just going to go public. I think that's what will happen if the report's not out. I think there's two tracks. I think the president wants them. People might. I'm looking at Thomas Friedman's article today. He doesn't like Huckabee as a nominee to be ambassador to Israel. Okay, everyone's got an opinion. That's fine, but let him go out there and prove it. Let him answer the questions. You have never tried a case. What makes you that, besides watching Donald Trump's back, what other areas do you think the Department of Justice, you think you could benefit leading the Department of Justice? And what areas, separate from politics, do you think that you would excel? Give me an idea, the top 5 issues right now facing this nation that don't involve Donald Trump or any Democrat. How would you handle this? And, let's see what he has an answer. Let's see what he says. And then you got a separate thing, and that's accusations about things that happened that we were not there for. And then they look at you and they say, we're not going to get a report out. We are going to get a report out. They were deadlocked in a House meeting yesterday. Both sides agreed not to talk about it, and then immediately both sides talked about it. So they're going to march him around, and I think he'll get to the point where after January 3rd, it'll be one of the first hearings, and you can rip tickets for it. It'll be confrontational, sarcastic. With the question will come down to this. He'll not get one Democratic vote. No one argues that. He's not going to get McConnell's vote. I don't think anybody argues that. Mm-hmm. Murkowski's vote, I think that is gone. I don't think Collins has already said some disparaging things. So you're up to 3. You could only lose one more, so you got 53 seats when McCormick gets sat. So with the Vice President Vance, you will get back up to 50. All right. So how you lose one more and it's gone. So I think the odds are really stacked against him. So it doesn't really matter what I think, and I don't think it even comes down to the report. They're going to say, "What did you do in the House? What exactly did you accomplish? You blew it up 2 years ago. What makes you think you're not going to blow up the Department of Justice and leave us rudderless and make it politicized?" And he's got to have a good answer to that. Same thing, with everybody else. I don't think Rubio's going to stumble. I think he's going to glide through, and everybody, loves. I think Linda McMahon will glide through and things to that nature. But there's certain people that are going to have to be ready.
The big 3 question marks.
Win people over.
The big 3 question marks, where even a lot of conservative media has editorialized against them, are RFK Jr., Tulsi Gabbard, and Matt Gaetz. Those are the big 3. Well, and I guess to some extent your colleague Pete Hegseth as well.
Yeah, I mean, Pete's coming through today. I understand they're going to bring him through and meet some senators today, and with the vice president elect. So yeah, those are going to be the story, and it gives Anderson Cooper something to talk about with his small audience. It's kind of an intimate setting, just a fireside chat the other networks are having. They get everyone in one room rather than just make them sit and watch separate televisions, and they talk about these things. That's it. I mean, the other story is people are realizing that it's not Fox News or Frank Morano or Sid Rosenberg that are deciding who they want to vote for president, and we're all niche people that think that Trump would do a better job. They're seeing 74 million people. And they're saying with all the negative things we've said about him and how we said he's unworthy, everyone ignored you. And now you have people who will just take their small audience and move on, or, networks are up for sale. I don't love that in our business ever. Well, but networks are up for sale.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that.
Is going to be sold.
Right. So the
MSNBC, the other morning sport.
Yeah. So the MSNBC situation, I have to think you and your colleagues at Fox News, while you might not be happy about it for the cable news business, it's really, in some respects, a testament to the ratings victory that you guys have been a part of, especially over the course of the last year or so. But now it's being reported that the MSNBC staffers are in a panic and the parent company, Comcast, is planning to spin off that channel, maybe even change their name. The same thing for CNBC and some of their other cable outlets as well. What do you think this means for the future of cable news in general? Obviously, you guys at Fox News are going to be just fine, but are we going to get to a situation where Fox News is the only one left standing?
I hope not. And there's other networks out there. I just, you got to make it work. I guess these news directors have to decide, is it worth paying someone $20 million if they have no audience? I mean, does that math work out? There was a big story, I think it was the New York Times or Wall Street Journal, that talked about, is the age of high-powered anchors, high-paid anchors over, and they go into detail about it. But, the Washington Post is losing, $76 million? And they're mad at Jeff Bezos for just taking the loss every day, which is insane. So I think people are under the old model. It's going to be fascinating. I don't think it's a good place in this country when you are run by influencers. I saw that a Pew Research study said that 34% of people under 30 are getting their news from influencers, which means they're paid to push Tide or sponsored by, and they come out and they tell you, and they advocate for a story online, and you like them, and they're sexy, and look at a reality show, and next thing you know, you believe that. So that's a scary situation. I think you need a news infrastructure in order to get to the opinion people like us. And I don't think that anyone served for the dissipation of that. I see that Facebook said, I want to be out of the news business. It's too controversial. So then you look at a leading social media platform, they want out. So I think it's a fascinating time. I wish I had the answer, but I could say this. I don't think anyone exactly has the answer.
Right. Right. No, that's exactly right. And I was going to ask your view of whether that was a positive or a negative, the uptick in terms of influencers providing news, not just for 1 in 5 Americans, but for about 40% of Americans under the age of 30. I mean, that's going to be the group that determines, the demographic group that determines the next president and the president after that. No question.
Yeah. And I think it's up for us to go get them. And find out the issues that matter most for 18 to 34s, and you don't pander, but you expose it and you focus on it. And I think we've done a pretty good job as a network doing that. And I think there's a huge generation of people in their 30s here that do a fantastic job. So I'm very curious to see if Trump continues to win people over and athletes over. The people that you watch on UFC is the next generation, and you see the leading fighters love the guy, and people might wonder, it might be cool again to like a president, let alone this president. So maybe that could get young people involved too.
Morning decisions. A creamy mocha frappuccino drink? A sweet vanilla? Maybe a smooth caramel? Or that white chocolate mocha? Whichever you choose, delicious coffee awaits. Start your day with bottled Starbucks Frappuccino drinks. Pick up a bottle near you wherever you buy your groceries.
Clorox Sentiva smells like lavender. Cleans like Clorox. feels like.
All right, that could go on for a while. Experience the long-lasting freshness of Clorox Scentiva, available in Clorox Scentiva Lavender Scented Bleach. Use as directed.
Home means something different to everyone. But with Rocket Mortgage, home can mean even more. It can mean a college education, taming your high-interest debt, even a renovation. We've made it easier than ever to use your home equity. That home you worked so hard for, now it can work hard for you. Call 800-4ROCKET or visit rocket.com to find out more.
Rocket Mortgage, LLC. Licensed in all 50 states. NMLSConsumerAccess.org. Number 3030.
Experience a progressive lens engineered with AI from Essilor, powered by individual measurements of your visual behavior. A lens personalized to you by an Essilor expert. Discover Verilux XR Track and enjoy instantly sharp vision in motion and seamless transitions from near to far. Find your local Essilor expert today at Essilor.com.
We've talked a bit about the Ukraine situation, and I know you spend a lot of time on this on both radio and television. And, I think my view on the Ukraine situation is probably a bit closer to where Trump is. And I think you might be a bit closer to where Kevin McCarthy and Lindsey Graham are. But that being said, President Trump didn't make any bones about where he was going to lead the country with respect to foreign policy in general and Russia-Ukraine specifically. What we've seen from the Biden administration is his attempt to supply Ukraine with anti-personnel mines and the administration moved to forgive $4.7 billion of loans to Ukraine. Now, I have to think, even if you might agree with either or both of these moves, you have to think it's a slap in the face to the voters that just voted for Trump, in part because of where Trump is on a non-interventionist foreign policy approach, for Biden to deliberately try and go in the opposite direction before January 20th. What do you think about this, Brian?
Oh, yeah. And he's doing the same thing with immigration. He's doing the same thing with liberal judges. He's still president. He's jamming everything through possible, and he's trying to Trump. They're trying to Trump-proof everything with these are their words. And I think there's a couple of things going. He says, oh my goodness, Trump's not going to continue this policy, unlike Nixon, and we're not much different from Vietnam War. But when LBJ says, I'm not going to run again, Nixon said, I'm going to get you out of the Vietnam War eventually. And it became his war. So this is much less complicated than Vietnam. I got it. But the bigger story is, if they just deliver the weapons on time and release the restrictions, which was their policy to help Ukraine, this thing might be totally different. There might be even more leverage for talks. But instead, they release restrictions, stop our allies from releasing restrictions. And do you know, Frank, that according to Zelensky, only 10% of the weapons promised have been delivered? They're somehow stuck in our supply chain. So even the stuff that we all agree on that came out the door in exchange for the Langford border bill, which was politically a disaster, that stuff that both sides said, okay, yeah, we passed. It went through Congress. That's not even there. So we're saying we got to get more money to it. Well, why don't you get the original weapons cachet to them? And have you replenished our stocks? I mean, this has been 2 years, 1,000 days. We should be able to, in this day and age, replenish anything and everything rapidly. It's a for-profit industry. No one's asking, sweatshop workers to do some volunteer work to deliver weapons. People want to make money, don't they? So how could we not have replenished and how could we not have delivered? But what I'm seeing, too, is I asked Michael Waltz this on Monday. I said, have you been briefed on these new policies? And he said no. So I think that is the one thing I thought we'd get a classy turnover from that we got from Bush to Obama. I thought with Biden's experience that he prides himself on that stuff, but he's not briefing them on foreign policy, which is a problem.
Yeah, no kidding. Before we run out of time, Brian, I got to ask you about what we're seeing with Aaron Rodgers and the Jets. Prior to the season, you gave Jet fans a lot of reason to be optimistic and hopeful about Aaron Rodgers. So far, it looks like that optimism and hope has been misplaced, especially after last week. Do you think it's time for Rodgers to hang it up after this season?
Well, if you have a situation that Russell Wilson walked into this year with Pittsburgh, where the team is maybe a game or two over 500, it's ready to go for a 30-something quarterback that you can get at a bargain rate, you take it. And if there's a team out there, like what Darnold did with Minnesota, who's got a lot better roster than anyone thought, that could be just ready to go, we'll take a flyer and give Rodgers a shot. They would do it, and there's got to be a quarterback. Whoever the Jets hire as a GM and coach, unless they have an affinity or relationship with Rodgers already, the Jets are going to go, no, I need to start over. I can't have a quarterback more powerful than the coach and GM. I can't have a quarterback, even though I'm not saying he's bad in the locker room. Maybe he's great in the locker room. But I think that he's not done. He wants to keep playing. Number one, he will never end like this. If there's someone who would give another shot, you can't force someone to take you. But the other thing is, what about the story that after losing 10-9 to the Denver Broncos, Woody Johnson walked in and told Robert Saleh, bench Rodgers. And Saleh said, I can't. I'll lose the whole locker room. He's not the problem. And he said, okay. And then they went out and lost next week, and then he got fired. So what about that drama behind the scenes?
It's funny. I was not hip to all that behind-the-scenes drama. That's wild. It's going to be an interesting situation in terms of, what the next general manager is being asked to do, I suppose. It's going to be interesting. Hey, you got Mark Halperin on radio today. He's one of my favorites, and as far as I'm concerned, one of the most astute observers of modern American politics. What are you talking to him about, the transition or broader issues?
I'm going to talk to him about, I want to talk about what happened yesterday behind closed doors and the chance Gates has. I want to get his take on if the president has a bigger story of maybe putting Gates in the open, pushing Gates to make DeSantis ask Gates to take that open Senate slot. Could that be a move? So I want to find out the latest, what you just said about the war handoff. What about the praise Thomas Friedman gave to Donald Trump's administration with the Abraham Accords? And he says he's the most detailed two-state solution that he's seen. Our mainstream media being changed. How he knew that this Trump wave was going to happen. If you listen to his broadcasts, he's saying, I'm getting reports that Trump's got all the momentum. The fallout from the Democrats when you got Kamala Harris doesn't care about the vote in the Senate to get these judges. She's in Hawaii. And the blowing of $1 billion, which still has a deficit of, I think, $20 million? So she spent over $1 billion and lost every battleground state. So I'm going to let him bring me to the latest. So he'll be the insider. Got Brett Baer, Michael Watley from the RNC. Talking about the recount that's happening in Pennsylvania. Griff Jenkins on the border. Nobody's better. Sandra Smith. And Chris Myers from Fox Sports.
All right.
He has a great book out in his career. So it's going to be a big show.
No doubt. Catch him on radio, on television, both during the week and on the weekend, where you can see Brian on Fox Nation every Saturday night at 9 p.m. Eastern. Thank you, Brian, as always.
Stay within yourself, Frank.
I plan to.